In 1940, a group of scientists ran an experiment so dangerous, so mind-bending, that some genuinely feared it could stop time itself. Not metaphorically, literally. As in, clocks halting, atoms freezing, and the universe collapsing into a silent pause. Sounds like science fiction, right? Well, the scariest part is, it almost wasn't. This story begins during the most chaotic time in modern history, World War II. While the world was tearing itself apart, in secret underground labs, another kind of weapon was being born. Not a bomb, not a bullet, but something far more abstract. Physicists were racing to unlock the atom, and with it, the nature of time itself. One of the biggest mysteries? How subatomic particles, the tiniest pieces of matter, behave when they interact with each other, especially under extreme conditions. This led to a forgotten experiment that would challenge the very structure of reality. It was called the Manhattan Project's Heavy Water Time Reversal Test. Yes, really. The idea was to test whether time could be reversed, not for humans, but for particles. In theory, if certain particles behaved the same forward and backward in time, then time wasn't as fixed as we think. This idea is called time symmetry. Now here's where it gets wild. The team used something called heavy water. Water molecules where the hydrogen atoms are replaced with deuterium, a heavier form of hydrogen. This stuff behaves differently in nuclear reactions, making it perfect for experimenting with neutron collisions. The goal? Blast particles into heavy water and see if, under the right conditions, time might rewind itself. But here's the twist. Some theorists warned that if time could reverse at the quantum level, it might cascade outward, potentially unzipping the arrow of time as we know it. That means not just a failed experiment, but a possible collapse of cause and effect. Imagine, you flip a switch and the light turns on before you touch it. People speak backwards. Death precedes birth. Time, essentially, comes undone. This wasn't just philosophical paranoia. Scientists like Niels Bohr and Werner Heisenberg quietly raised concerns. If these experiments went too far, they might tamper with fundamental laws, ones we didn't fully understand. So what happened? The experiment was conducted, and nothing happened. At least not visibly. No clocks froze. No black holes opened. Time didn't snap back like a rubber band. But the results weren't normal either. In their logs, researchers noted anomalous fluctuations in decay rates, radioactive particles acting unpredictably. One report described a brief period where time-measuring instruments fell out of sync, down to the microsecond. They repeated the experiment, cautiously, and again strange inconsistencies appeared. Were they technical errors, random quantum noise? Or did they, for a moment, nudge the boundaries of time? No one could say for sure. And that was the scariest part. The experiment was quietly buried in the classified vaults of the Manhattan Project. After all, atomic bombs were more urgent and easier to explain to generals. By the time the Cold War rolled in, particle time reversal tests were considered too risky or simply not useful enough to pursue. The records vanished into archives, filed under names no one remembered. It was only decades later, when a declassified report surfaced in the 1980s, that physicists realized just how close they had gotten to the edge. Fast forward to today. Scientists at CERN, yes, the place with the Large Hadron Collider, are still studying time symmetry violations. In 2012, they confirmed that certain particles, called kaons, do not behave the same when time is reversed. This was huge. It means time isn't perfectly symmetrical after all. Something in the universe prefers moving forward. But that also means, in very rare conditions, time's direction might be flexible, bendable. And yes, experiments like the one during the Manhattan Project might have even brushing up against this cosmic boundary. Here's the part that keeps physicists awake at night. We still don't fully understand what time is. Not really. We can measure it. We live by it. but we can explain why it only moves in one direction, or what would happen if it didn't. So when a forgotten experiment nearly 80 years ago flirted with reversing time, it wasn't just science fiction. It was a warning, a reminder that the closer we get to the truth of the universe, the more we risk breaking it. If this story blew your mind, hit subscribe for more mind-bending history, science, and forgotten facts. And tell us in the comments, could something like this happen again? Would we even notice?